Hey everyone, welcome to Lachlan Likes a Thing, a show where I take a thing and see whether or not I like it. Now the thing we're looking at in this video is the Pioneer HDJ-1500 DJ headphones. Now I got these headphones for about $130 at Dick Smith Electronics, though I think I've seen these go for as low as $70 or $80 in some of the big box electronics retailers in America. So this is a DJ headphone, and I'm generally a big fan of DJ headphones because they are, first and foremost, when they're designed well, they're first and foremost headphones designed for day-to-day professional use. So they're meant to take a lot of abuse, they're meant to be thrown around a lot, they have to offer very high noise isolation, a good stable fit, etc, etc. So a well-designed DJ headphone is generally also a well-designed traveling or portable headphone, which is why something like the HD-25 or the Sennheiser inferior is very popular just for day-to-day commuting use. And with that in mind, the HDJ-1500 is also, I think, a really well-designed DJ headphone for its price. So first off, in terms of build quality, this headphone is very rugged feeling. Everything is quite chunky and solid. A lot of the hinges, a lot of the parts of this headphone are actually made out of magnesium alloy, which, if you watch enough of my videos, is one of my favorite materials for making headphones because it's a material with a high strength to weight ratio, and it's quite a nice feeling material in terms of fit and finish. The headphone also folds up into this nice compact shape, which is always a big plus. Now, there are some rough edges to the finishing on this headphone that prevent it from really feeling premium for its price. So, just some of the finishes around some of the plastic parts are a little rough, just like in the same way the HD-25 has some rough edges. Nothing that makes you lose confidence in the build of this headphone, but just something that stops it from being, a $300, $400 kind of premium product. Now, in terms of the kind of comfort and noise isolation of this headphone, the HDJ-1500 is definitely on the stronger side in terms of its clamping force. Now, when I say that, you'll notice that the ear pads on the 1500 are quite large, but they are still made for an on-ear fit, so they will press down on your ears rather than cup around them. And the ear pads themselves, while they're quite soft, they're also quite dense, so they don't actually compress all that much. So when you put them on your head, you find that the HDJ-1500 has a very stable fit on the head. It doesn't move around a lot, but it is also quite strong in its clamping force. You will feel it press against your ears, especially if you wear glasses, so it may not be comfortable for longer periods of time. So I find my ears getting maybe sore a bit after about 1 or 1.5 hours of wear with this headphone. The other issue with this headphone is that it does weigh 285 grams, which is on the heavier side for a portable headphone. The Inferior, for instance, weighs about 200 grams. So you will find that that will kind of not make this headphone entirely disappear on your head. One last thing about the 1500 in terms of build is that it comes with this big chunky coiled cable, and it feels very solid, very durable, but it is also a heavy coiled cable. So it will kind of swing around a bit when you walk around with it. If you're going to use it as a portable headphone, you will feel it kind of weigh down on one side of the ear. Now, this is a detachable headphone cable, so it does lock and it can be detached. So you can replace it with an aftermarket cable. The one thing is that the HDJ-1500 uses a 2.5mm termination on this cable, so you can't just plug in any old 3.5mm mini jack. You need to plug in a 2.5mm cable, so it might be harder to find a custom or aftermarket cable for this headphone. That said, I'm sure the DJ community is absolutely on this with all kinds of crazy colored cables for you to kind of personalize this headphone. I should point out this is the black version of the HDJ-1500. There's also a white version and a silver version, though I had to say I think the black looks the most kind of lethal and stealthy of them all, and I really do quite like the industrial design of this headphone. Anyway, as far as sound of the HDJ-1500 goes, I have to say this is one of the most, well, probably is the most DJ sounding of any DJ headphone that I've ever heard. And what I mean by that is that, as I understand it from talking with some DJs, particularly a friend, Ronald, who is a DJ himself, DJs, when they select a headphone, what they really want is a headphone that allows them to do beat tracking. And beat tracking means that they have to be able to queue up the next track so that they can kind of mix it into their current playlist. So they need to be able to have a really strong sense of what the beat is in the music, and that means they need an emphasis on the bass notes and on the treble notes, and not so much the vocals. So with the HDJ-1500, there's a really strong emphasis on the bass. It's not actually emphasis on the mid bass, so it doesn't sound particularly warm at all, but the actual lower bass is very tight, the sub bass is very punchy and quite pronounced. There's no real mid bass bloat to speak of. In fact, the mids on this headphone are quite recessed, and on the high frequency notes, it's actually very, very forward. So there is a very strong kind of very dry, very nasal, very aggressive tone to the treble. It's not ear-piercing, but it is definitely a pronounced aspect of the sound. So overall, this headphone sounds very aggressive, and it's a very dynamic and very lively listen, but it's by no means a relaxing listen. And the extra kind of emphasis on the high frequencies does mean that the treble really does kind of stand out a lot in the mix, and as a result, soundstage actually seems maybe artificially wide, but it is one of the wider aspects on this headphone. It does sound quite expansive. So overall, as a headphone for commuting, combined with the strong noise isolation on this headphone, sorry I didn't mention that before, but the HDJ-1500 actually has quite strong noise isolation despite being an on-ear headphone. Combined with the strong noise isolation and the quite aggressive signature, it makes for a pretty decent commuting headphone because you can have a really strong sense of the beats in the music. So I think this headphone is particularly well suited for electronic music, kind of modern studio recordings. But that said, anything that is already mastered kind of aggressively or hot will sound doubly so on the HDJ-1500. And if you're a kind of listener who's after a more of a relaxed or more kind of a mellow vocal sound, this is probably not the headphone for you. That said, this headphone at the price of about $130 or even as low as $70 or $80, I think is a bargain. And I'd be very happy to recommend this, provided that maybe you might want to look at finding an aftermarket cable to replace this heavy coiled cable. Yeah, but no, I'd be happy to recommend this and put this on my recommended list. And I think you ought to head on down and check this out, because this was a bit of a surprising find for me. I couldn't find that much information about this headphone, but I'm pretty glad I tried it. Anyway, thanks for watching this video, and click the like button if you found it helpful. Leave a comment. I'm looking forward to all your comments, particularly from my regular subscribers. You can talk to me on Facebook at facebook.com/LachlanLikesAthing, or on Twitter @LachLikesAthing, and happy listening.